Okay, Dani, here we are, full into fall season.
We are.
A lot of exciting guests. You're back and forth to Brotherly Love, which is kind of cool. Yep. I was a little worried, but
I was going to abandon you and never come back.
I know. I figured you were gone forever. I was like,
I feel like now it just gets more interesting because I feel like our guests just continue to. I mean, we just continue to get some incredible people on the show. So
I agree.
I'm very excited. Like I flew in this morning specifically for this guest. I did, yeah, and I'm out first thing tomorrow morning. So I'm only here for not even 24 hours. So
are you at least going to see your boss? Is he here? Or is he?
I get to see him this coming weekend because
that's cool.
we have our conference in Vegas. So out to
what is that?
Vegas for Venues Now.
Venues Now.
Yeah. So we're in Vegas for a little bit, and then Tanya and I are taking a birthday trip. So our birthdays are only a few days apart.
So you guys are going? Yeah.
Yeah.
So my wife took a trip this weekend with the girls over holiday weekend. Went up to Aspen to some festival.
Oh yeah. You told me about that.
And she brought me back the Elks.
Look, she didn't forget
Elks
about
up
you.
In Aspen. And,
are you an elk?
I am not. I'm the spouse of an elk. My wife is the elk.
She's an elk?
She's an elk.
I don't know if Michelle and I have ever had that conversation. My dad's an elk. Like he was like ER in Gallup.
Shout out to Elks Littleton, who's our client. But supposedly Elks Aspen is like the best elk she's ever been in. Yeah.
I can only imagine. I'm going to have to ask her about that.
All right, what do we got?
Okay, well, today I'm really, really excited. I think I've been asking this guest for almost, the last year and a half.
He's hard to pin down. He's a busy guy.
Since we started, I was like, hey, when can we lock you down to be a guest on our podcast? But just like everybody else, I think everyone kind of waited a little bit to see how it was going to go. And so finally,
I think it's gone pretty well.
Year and a half in, we got you. So, please welcome everybody, CEO of Parkwell, Mr. Joel Christensen.
And founder.
CEO and founder. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to short you there.
Hey, no.
I didn't mean to short you there.
That's a big deal. Joel, welcome.
Hey, thank you, John, Dani. It's really, it's an honor to be here. I have not been strategic in holding off at all. It's just actually,
I'm giving you a hard time.
It's serendipitous. I think it's just good timing. We have some fun stuff going on, and you guys have a ton of momentum right now. And so I think it's just, it's fun to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, it's great to have you because, a lot of us have been watching what you've done and what you've created. And I got to tell you, it's amazing. I mean, congratulations on the success, the continued success. You're now venturing out into other markets, right?
That's right. Yeah. Denver for the first 8 years, and then the last year and a half, 2 years almost, we finally spread our wings a little bit. So
tell us, where are you? Where?
Well, the big splash was we partnered with a great guy named Andrew Britton out in LA. I hired him as a valet, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago.
Oh, that's cool.
And his journey, took him somewhere, and my journey took me, but we came back together and said we should partner up. And so we launched LA about 2 years ago, but it was just a slow grind. I mean, it was hard. City like that too, right? There's like endless opportunity.
Right.
And
a lot of deep, like seated people that have been in the industry for a long time, know a lot of cats.
And it's a weird market. On one hand, you have like some of the more innovative, progressive, asset owners that want to do really cool stuff. And then there's a lot of like old school tech and old school parking ops. And there's just so much noise, it's hard to find the signal. But we're now, a little healthy business down there, and now in San Diego as well. And knocking on the door, we really like Salt Lake. We invested some time there, and that feels really imminent. And then
it's like an hour flight, and 10 minutes. They say an hour and 20, but I don't think it really takes that long.
Yeah, and I think you all know too, if you've been to Salt Lake recently, you just feel the potential.
Oh, right? Yeah, Salt Lake's great.
Yeah.
Lots of potential there.
So anyway, that, we're doing our thing, and we could talk more about, some of the big moves we've made recently to kind of invest in our people that I think is going to help us do more. But
Right. So we usually go to the history. I have to tell a funny story to start because I remember when you came into the market.
Well, I definitely want to get into the history because like I think that like it's kind of like you, John, like you were in the industry for quite a while before you branched out on your own, created your own thing. You as well, Joel, you've been in the operating space for so long, but I'll let you tell your story first,
Yeah.
John. I don't want to interrupt you.
So I remember Brand X when you were at Brand X, whatever. I think everybody knows where you were, but I remember we did this SWOT exercise at SP, and everyone was like, oh, we got this person, we got this person, we got this person. And I'm like, what about this person? They're like, ooh. I'm like, guy just kicked my ass at the State Museum garage. And I was like, I'm telling you, that guy's going to be a fierce competitor. If he's not on the list, he needs to be on the list. And everyone was like, we don't even know who he is. I'm like, trust me.
that's funny. That must have been, 2013?
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you took that and then, started making a splash for that brand in the marketplace. And I saw it firsthand. So, obviously, you've taken it to a different level now and evolved. So that's great.
Well, and I think that we were both competitors to you at once, right?
That's right,
I remember
yeah.
when I first got into the parking industry, I was with a very small, still pretty, like family-owned, operated operator. And so even when I got into the industry, you guys were already pretty well established, but still, I don't think that, like then when I first met you and your team, you guys were like pedal to the floor, like full on gas. And like, I don't think you've slowed down, like even since when I first got into the industry. And so
I think he's actually sped up, to be
that's
honest
what I'm
with
saying.
you.
Yeah. If you could anymore. And so I think your story, and I've heard it, I've had the pleasure of getting to know you over the years since being in parking. And I think your story is so incredible and so interesting. And I know that we always start with this, but I love it because I think it's a really good introduction to people who do know you, but might not know your story, and to those who don't know you. But like you started out in parking as a valet in Malibu.
That's right.
Just to pay for your college tuition. Did you ever in a million years think that this is where you would be?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. Yeah, no. I was one of the few people at Pepperdine. I went to school out at Pepperdine in Malibu, and I was one of the few people there who had to work, to pay
Right.
tuition and rent and all that stuff, which was a great experience. And I would say I probably learned as much in that parking lot, which was Duke's, the famous Duke's Malibu. It's a great Hawaiian restaurant right on the coast. You sit on the back patio and you'll get splashed by the waves.
That's pretty incredible. I'll remember that.
And
Hopefully not burned by the flames.
it didn't
Yeah.
get burned. It's so sad. It's wild. It was like in this tiny, tiny little pocket that got spared. And then like a couple weeks later, a mudslide came and took it out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was, it's getting renovated, so it'll be back. But there's so many good people who've come out of that parking lot. If you guys know Dane Nielsen at Laz, he's a great guy out there in Los Angeles. Mike Akahoshi, if you know. There's all these that little pocket just produced some great parking people. But I was a valet, and it was probably the most fun you could possibly have as someone
College kid.
Yeah, as a college kid. But I think one of the fun stories is like I was working for these two twin brothers. They were also going to the same school, but they were older than me, and I knew they had a reputation. They were just kind of hard asses. They were like hardcore guys. They would get up and like run 10 miles and then go and work a shift. And they just ran a really lean, hard operation. And I was like this kind of like Southern California surf kid who was just looking to like make some good tips and get free food afterwards. And I got humbled. Like I was 2 weeks into it, they were about to let me go because I wasn't sprinting from the podium to the car and back. They're like, this is how we do it. And if you're going to be on this team, you've got to level up. And it was so humbling. Like I was pissed at first. I was like, I'm going to get fired from a valet job. And then like, 24 hours later, I realized like, no, like I gotta just let's do it. Yeah, I don't
Let's
care
do
if
it.
it seems silly. Like I'm just gonna freaking do it. And so
you got in shape pretty quick, I bet.
I got in shape, and but you know, a couple lessons from that. Number one, it's you lose trust, and it's like a mountain to climb to regain it.
Right.
And so there's
Perception is everything once it's formed.
yeah, totally. And also like I remember telling myself while I was running, you know, my ass off in that parking lot, telling myself like, look, if I'm going to be here, just do it 110%. No matter what I do, whether it's 2 hours or 12 hours a day, just go all in. And I don't know. I mean, as much as I learned at Pepperdine, which is a great university, those things in those early days of parking cars was my real education. And you know, so in hindsight, you could look back and be like, yeah, it makes sense that you're still parking cars,
Right.
but
So what made you come from to Denver? Was it parking?
yeah. I think my history, and I speak very fondly of them, so I'd love to mention my
absolutely.
employer. But back in those days in Malibu, it was Sunset Parking out of San Diego.
Oh, yeah,
the great
yeah.
Michael Harth.
Yep.
He's one of my mentors to this day.
Great
and
guy.
Someone I highly respect and love. And then he merged with Laz, and so I caught the sort of early days of Laz and Sunset sort of making a market out of California, which was nuts. They just went nuts. I've never seen so much growth. Shout out to John Svenblad for just blowing up Los Angeles.
Yep.
For Laz. And so then, you know, but my wife and I met at school. She was a Michigan girl. I grew up kind of all over Fort Collins and then San Diego.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I think we just found the LA lifestyle to be somewhere, you know, we just didn't want to like grow roots there.
Right.
Short story, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we were just looking for opportunities, and Laz was growing and expanding. They had an opportunity in Denver, and I raised my hand, and so it was an opportunity to kind of start the market,
Right.
which was exciting for me, and turned out to be the right move.
Yeah, which is kind of fast forward to where my story left off, because when you got into the market, I mean, you were pretty successful with them. And I got to be honest with you, from looking from the outside in, obviously Laz had a transaction where they purchased Bergassa's company. And it was like, you know, you had two star quarterbacks, right? And it was like, everyone was kind of like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So, you know, I mean, I think most of us thought that you would stay at Laz and it would work itself out, right? And it didn't. So tell us about that time period, because that was like, we were all wondering. Like I said, I was one of the ones that said, yeah, they're going to stay and exist together. But obviously, I think maybe for a little while you did, but didn't ultimately work out, I don't think, right?
Well, we actually never worked together. So,
Okay.
we missed that by like 4 months. But I was pretty involved in the early days of kind of courting Dan and you know, teeing up that deal. And that was really fun, actually. But I love Dan. He's a great guy.
Yep.
And ton of respect for him. I would have loved to have worked with him. We came close. But anyway, what I was dealing with at that time was, you know, I think must have been like early 30s. And there was this like ominous feeling I had that the golden handcuffs were like coming my way. And if I didn't make a leap, I'd probably always regret not trying something on my own.
So the entrepreneur was knocking inside,
Yeah, man.
pounding away.
I just had this sort of like,
Love it.
and it was tough because I had so much, I'd invested at this point like 14 years with Laz, and I had so much respect and love for them. So it was a confusing thing of like, you know, I want to stay a part of this great organization, but I'm restless and I have this other drive
Right.
to go and build something. And so,
God, it was a challenge.
Yeah.
You had an internal
yeah, it was a total
battle going with yourself.
And I think it was credit to Laz for being an entrepreneurial business that like kept somebody like me for as long as he did, because, you know, they provided all sorts of cool opportunities for me to kind of stretch my legs in that way.
Right.
But in the end, it was kind of, you know, just was sort of saying like, sometimes you just have those gut check moments where you're like, it's now or never kind of thing. And actually, there's a fun story. I'm on vacation reading this book. You guys heard of Freakonomics?
I think so, yeah.
It's like a series of pods and books and all that. It's a bunch of economists that are like putting together really cool data. And one of the things that I read was like, as humans, we always overvalue sunk costs. So what we put into something, we put at a high value, and we undervalue opportunity costs. So like whatever the cost of doing something, whatever cost of not doing something, for example, we undervalue because we don't know. And when I read that, I just sort of stuck. I was like, that's the dilemma I'm in. I'm putting a little bit too much value in the sunk costs, and I gotta go see about this opportunity. So that was what led me to eventually, make the leap. And it was tough because it was right as the deal with Alpha Park was happening, and I wanted to see that through. But in the end, I'm really grateful that Dan had a great outcome and career with Laz, and I'm really grateful that I made the leap. And Parkwell's been a huge blessing, and I'm super grateful for everything that's happened since.
That is, that's courage at its finest. I mean, your internal struggle and battle is obviously it worked out for you, and that's part of what I love about entrepreneurism, because it's a gamble, right?
Every time.
You rolled the dice, you had a cushy little thing going, and you were on your, obviously, trajectory was up, and that's great. So you made that jump, and you started, I think you were out for 12 months or so, right?
Yeah.
And you started in a little tech thing going?
Well, yeah. So I didn't Parkwell and parking was not the plan when I left Laz. So I actually was feeling like I wanted to go and be a tech star. I wanted to like go and join a cool tech company and do that deal. And I found a cool mobility company that was out of Boulder. They had just raised a little bit of money. I was like employee number one, and that was the plan. The only challenge was they didn't have any real income opportunity for me. So I could either take some equity or I could take a really small paycheck, and I opted for the equity.
Right.
And we were going to just kind of hustle and eat what we killed kind of thing. And the only problem with that is I had one small child and another one on the way. And I just couldn't.
Kind of need some income.
I couldn't like not work. I wasn't independently wealthy. And that was funny. That was the question the CEO of that company asked me. He's like, "Are you independently wealthy?" I'm like, "No, not at all. That's why I'm doing this."
Right.
Anyway, that was the deal. So, but to stop the bleeding was basically, hey, I know parking. Let me see if I can go get a few little parking lots, kind of passive work that I can just hedge this with a little bit.
Right.
And so I started Parkwell, and it was Parkwell with a Q. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
I do.
Parkwell.
Parkwell.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was kind of like, that was for the first year and a half. It was just sort of running a few parking lots and trying to make this work with the startup.
So I do have a question, because I think the majority, and I don't think I've ever asked you this, but the majority of us know Parkwell as Parkwell, maybe with a Q, now with a K. But before you were Parkwell, because a lot of companies go through a rebrand at some point, right?
Right.
Have you always been, aside from the Q to the K, did you always plan on being Parkwell, or was there something before Parkwell?
No. No, it was like, I have a journal with like all these different names.
Yeah.
And I was like playing with P's and no, when I like wrote Parkwell down, I was like, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
So is there a story behind Parkwell, or just
no,
what was
like
going through your head?
We tried to like put together a sort of brand concept around it, and I'm like, no, it's just Parkwell. It's concise.
You woke up one day and just said, it's Parkwell.
It's I don't know what it is about it. I mean, there's a wellness piece maybe to like how we do business, and there's, I think mostly it's just sort of a very like repeatable, memorable name, and it looks good together. You put those two words together, and it's just I just think it's a simple, nice brand.
And I think that like parking well, like I think you help people park pretty well. Like I don't know,
Park well.
I park with you guys a lot when I'm in Denver. So
Little brand loyalty.
What do you guys think of the name?
I like the name. I think it's cool. I was just wondering if there was a story behind it, because when you look at it, it's kind of like you're like, wow, we're a lot of thought into that, and it's kind of like it's kind of cool to know that you just kind of woke up and said that.
And I think intentionally or unintentionally, right? Like when you say Parkwell, like you literally want people to just like be able
you want them to
park well.
Yeah,
and so,
exactly.
And then like you said, so I think that this is a really good segue into, you said like the wellness behind your brand and your employees and how you've built your company, because I really do want to get into that, because I do think I've met so many of your team members and I've worked with them on multiple occasions, and when I was in tech and even now, but you've built this, like Parkwell is very boutique-y, right? You don't.
Can you say that again? I thought that was cool.
Boutique-y?
Boutique-y. I sound like I'm going to a tiki bar.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Boutique-y.
let's create like a tiki album. Call it Boutique.
That should be your next happy hour.
there you
It's
go.
like
Boutique-y.
it should be boutique-y.
That's good.
But so you guys are very boutique-y, if you will. And you're very choosy and picky about where you go, what and who, what you bring on, but you've created this entire culture behind Parkwell, and I think,
thank you for bringing that up, because I see a lot of companies and I see a lot of cultures, and you definitely, being at your open house a couple months ago. Thanks.
I'm glad you guys.
By the way,
yeah, for sure.
that's exciting. Moving into a new building that you own, and beautiful place. But you can, when you're in that moment, and at least for us who are there, you can feel the vibe. It's definitely real. So, where did you learn that from being at Laz, or are you trying to build your own kind of uniqueness?
like company culture,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean both. I think one of the great things that Al Zowski, all the leadership team over there did and instilled in me was just the value of culture, and how I think in our industry it's even more important than a lot, right? Because of the same thing we joke about. Nobody grows up thinking they're going to be a parking person, right?
I know.
And so then what is it that draws people, and how do you keep people engaged? And so definitely learned a lot, and have a lot to credit Laz for that. I also think my background, like I've just been fortunate, with the family I grew up with. I had a great granddad who was like a cowboy entrepreneur, New Mexico, farming / coal. He at age 13 he took over the route because his dad broke his leg driving coal from the mines to the markets, and then eventually built this great business and Western wear stores and
cool.
had some ranches, and
that's the New Mexico connection.
That's right. We got another connection there. Yeah, so he's got this chain of stores.
Damn, New Mexico.
They're still
keeps popping up.
It does.
They're still running. I should have brought you one of these hats because it's Dan's Boots and Saddles, and it's a cool brand. But anyway, I as a kid I grew up like hearing about him. He was still around when I was a kid, and I was just like, that is the kind of life I want to have. I kind of want to live on my own terms and build something. And when you combine that with the experiences I had growing up in my family, and then like working for a company that was much more mission driven than most. And I went to a school like Pepperdine where the motto was freely you receive, freely give. Like all of these things kind of combine and mesh into like this value system of like, if we're going to do something, let's make it fun and let's make it count. Like,
right.
Let's make it leave the world a better place kind of thing. And so I think that's just baked into the ethos of Parkwell. When we started at a really small time, like maybe like 4 or 5 locations, I said, okay, I think this thing might work. And if it does, it's going to get harder and harder to peel off like, funds for doing generous things. Let's bake it into the cake right now. Like, let's bake generosity into the cake. And because I kind of also knew that like, it's just sort of like when your income goes up, you start spending more, even if, and it's just hard to like later after you gotten some success, decide to all of a sudden be, Mr. Generous. So we just baked it in from day one. We have a 10% of our management fees goes into what we call our Go Giver Fund. And that like, I talk about that when I'm talking about culture, because if you take all of our sort of like personalities and all of our values and all the things we like to do and that fun that we have, it kind of all comes in, and it starts with a sort of a spirit of generosity. And the fact that we automated it as a part of our business, I don't have to think about it now.
That's pretty cool. So you call that the Go Giver?
Go Giver.
That's wild.
Well, that's pretty. I love that you talk about that, because I think giving back is so important in any capacity, whether you own a company or yourself. Like they say, generally, like 10% of your income 10% of it should go into giving back. And so I think that's great.
I'm sure some of the Laz folks will appreciate that they helped inspire yet another organization to create a culture like that. But it sounds like you've got other influences as well, which is kind of cool.
I just listened to that pod with Alan, and it's always a good story. Even if you've heard it, it's just such a good story. And the way he just talks, it's like parking is over here for him, and the real mission is
helping people.
So that's super inspiring. We're so small. We're so like the scale of what we're doing is so different. But the ethos, the spirit is pretty aligned, and I think just like with them, with us, it draws good people. Like people need a reason to work for this company versus that company,
right?
And in parking, people need a reason to work to join parking, because a lot of our really awesome managers and leaders are not from parking,
right?
And the reason that they're able to look at parking and say, I want to do this, is not because of the industry. They're actually saying, I actually think that's just cool to join a company who's going all in on this,
right?
This way of doing business. So
what is, at this point of Parkwell, I mean, what is your mission right now? What are you focused on, and how do you see this playing out?
Man, I'd love to like come in here all confident and tell you how amazing our 5-year plan is. And we do have a cool 5-year plan we can touch on. But like the truth is every year something like macro just smacks me in the face and it's like, well, that might have an impact on your plans.
Right.
And over the last, I'd say like 24 months, AI has been one of those things where it's like, this has to be reckoned with. I can't just march on and hope that this is going to be somehow accretive or not, And so, but like, honestly, totally honest, like the mission right now is to not lose our culture. All right. So let's talk about
as you scale,
let's talk about what we're not going to do. We're not going to lose our culture. We're not going to start abandoning our values. And our mission statement is to put people at the center of parking. And we've put so much energy around what that means to care for our employees and all that. So with technology that has a really disruptive, capability. So it's like what we're not going to do is lose sight of the values that have made us successful. And then what we're going to do, that's a bigger question, right? Of course, we're going to still organically grow.
Right.
But I would just say stepping back, like big picture, we like the holding company model. So, think of our business here in Colorado as a subsidiary and what we're doing in California. We also own property service companies where we've invested in, and there's a real estate arm. And I like, I think that's a model that I've gotten comfortable with because what we've learned, what we do better than most, or at least it's kind of a competitive edge, is we just have like a really talented group of like entrepreneurial people that want to do more, and we're all pretty young.
Right.
There's like a youth factor that we have kind of in our favor.
High energy.
Right? High energy.
You need it, and
people need growth, and people aren't like tapped out and they just cruising for the last 5 to 10 years of their career. These are people who like need to continue to
That's right.
to grow
and be challenged.
Yeah,
and have something to get up for, right?
So what the mission is looking at technology as an opportunity, but I think, and we could talk about that more in detail, but I think we're right now focused mostly on building a moat around us through our values and our culture, so that like that is rock solid in a way that can't really be disrupted.
Right.
And I do want to say, like, I know that they're, like we talk about these bigger companies and their culture and like where you came from. And I do think that you guys are dramatically different than anybody else. The bigger, operators, especially the bigger operators. And so, like, congratulations to you guys on like creating that culture. You guys have you have a very low turnover on like in Parkwell. And so, yeah, congratulations.
Well, you guys are too kind, honestly. This whole,
I
really appreciate it. But yeah, no, I got to give some real credit here because, on one hand, it didn't just happen, right? Like it was intentional. I would say it was like an expression of kind of like those values and all that. But on the other hand, like it is totally organic and it's happening on its own, with or without me. And I think that is
well. You get to a point in a company where the wind starts, filling up the sail. But for a period of time, it was. I mean, it was you. But you have some key lieutenants that are pretty talented as well. Whitehurst.
Well, let's talk about Whitehurst because like here's a good example of how we try to put our money where our mouth is. We're a smaller company, right? We have like 300 employees. So a company like ours to have a dedicated executive focused on like people and culture is probably pretty rare. You might have an HR manager.
Right.
But we have HR managers and then we have Ryan Whitehurst. And Ryan Whitehurst is like he's like our spirit animal, team coach, chaplain, all the above. Like he just makes people feel great and people trust and respect him in a way that gives them an outlet for confiding and working through hard things. He's kind of our team shrink, if you will. But he champions all this stuff. And so like these things don't happen on accident now. He has a little team and they do amazing things to like be thoughtful about how to continue to evolve the culture.
Right. How to introduce new things, right? How is it going to impact?
Right. The bags, the swag I brought in for you guys today is a good example of that. Ryan was really thoughtful and he sourced a really cool gift for all of our managers and like they just came out. Our managers love them. And
will you pick yours up or do you want me?
No, whatever.
I'm gonna show it. I got it. There you go. Thank you, Joel.
Shout out to Fuzz and Chris Gordon right there.
Yeah, those are cool too.
And it's funny. Ryan's great. I've run into him a few times just randomly. Once on the train at DIA or Den, whatever you want to call it. But funny enough, Ryan and one of our SVPs at OVG, they went to school together, and she was like, Ryan?
Oh, no way.
And so we recently were at a conference together, Becky and I, and she snapped a picture of us and sent it to Ryan because she's like, he's one of my best friends. I'm like, that's so fun. Small world, yeah.
Yeah, but and it's not just Ryan. I mean, there's so many people.
Your cousin John, right?
John's incredible. Like talk about how two different people, right? Like Ryan brings a certain warmth and, people feel really comfortable around him. John's got like the energy of like a bull in a china shop. And he's a big visionary and that totally different personality, but has a massive impact on the culture as well, because we're not just a culture that sits around singing Kumbaya and trying to like, help the
wishing upon a star,
the downtrodden,
doing the mushroom weekends and sitting around the campfire.
We're not just doing that. He brings this sort of spirit of like winning and like his energy for big things and taking on like any challenge, even if we're punching above our weight. That's all John. And so like you get these two personalities, you've got my personality in there somewhere, and there's a bunch of others that just sort of create this melting pot of like, I don't know how I'd describe it.
It's healthy. I mean, you need that for an organization.
Yeah, it's fun. So I do think that's important. I appreciate what you're saying. That it feels unique. I think we all, when you're a part of something and you kind of go, oh, this is unique. Let's Let's not spoil this.
Yeah.
I think everyone kind of has that feeling.
Right.
And so it's fun.
So, talking about the culture straight into, like you just mentioned AI, and you guys really leverage technology, and you've been in the industry for quite a while. So you've seen a lot of the, the older technology and how it's evolved. And there's something really special in your outtake form that I have to mention, because John, this is a huge controversy in John's world. But you mentioned AI and you mentioned autonomous vehicles.
Oh, that's a trigger word.
And so
for me.
it is a very trigger word for him. But I
want to get your take on it first.
Well, and so, and speaking of like
it's so
these
funny
bigger,
that this comes up
I know,
right now.
these bigger, operators who now house kind of their own technology. I want to hear from you and your thoughts on, does Parkwell plan on, I know you guys leverage technologies of the market. Is that the continued plan, or do you plan at some point to maybe take your technology in-house?
It's a good question. Short answer is, I think it's a big mistake to start building technology that you don't have a core competency in being able to maintain it, serve it, and constantly innovate. As a technology buyer over the last 5 years, I can admit that I've been behind a handful of times. Like, I've been late to the game on a handful of key trends. And as a buyer, if I'm doing that, think of me as an innovator, that's probably not my core competency. So it's not to say that Parkwell's not innovative or that I'm not innovative. It's just, are we technology builders? And I think fundamentally the answer is no. That the asterisk on that is, we are living in a time when building technology is being democratized, and
it takes a lot of resource and a lot of money.
So I love to hear that. Just because you're not building technology doesn't mean you're not utilizing technology.
Well, yeah.
And you utilize the best technology that you obviously go out and, you probably look at a lot of stuff as a buyer. But some people in our industry just see something over the fence and go, oh, we can do that too.
Yeah.
The bionic camera is a perfect example of that. That's now dead, I hear. Why build a camera when you can go to a company like Axis, who's been building cameras for 75 years and they're really good at it?
And
right?
I think that you made a good point, Joel, where you said, although I am a buyer, sometimes you're late to the show. Like, we're not always jumping on top of the latest and greatest. Like, and for you, why is that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think I have a good answer. So it's bias. I think we have sunk costs. Goes back to sunk costs. When we invest in a particular partnership or technology, it takes a lot to mobilize around that and get a team in operations, right? It takes a lot to get a team all swimming in the same direction. And you make changes to that slower because of that. So that's one reason. And I think if you were building technology, you have the same problem. You've built it on a certain framework. You've used a certain data, you've gone all in on a certain way of building it. It's really hard to iterate, right? And we're going to see that with AI companies. Like, the language models may not be the backbone of AI in 3 years. Right. But those companies who've built their entire AI business on, large language models, like, they're probably not going to make the pivot. And so that's just like one big macro example, but I think that's true for parking technology builders, and I think it's true for everybody. So anyway, the point is like, what are we good at? And if I'm a culture guy who loves to build teams, and like, that's probably not where I should be, spending my time is building software and hardware. But the point I was trying to make about, how technology is really kind of becoming easier and easier to build than ever, that is what's creating maybe the other part of this, which is, do I see us as being a technology company or like vertically integrated? Short answer is probably not. But do I see us investing in technology to run our business better? And does that eventually evolve into creating some of the solutions we need out in the field? I think it's kind of what Zach Satter said, as it's probably a both and. I'll never shut out the tech ecosystem in favor of our own proprietary stuff.
Right.
I'm going to probably leverage that tech ecosystem everywhere where we can. But then what are the things that we're not really optimizing right now, and maybe there's not really much of a market for it, but it would make our lives easier? Maybe we start to build some of that. And so that makes sense.
It does. Complete sense.
That's kind of where I see this going for a lot of companies.
Like, and I think as an operator and being in operations, like that's exactly what you want to do, is you want to be able to invest in the companies that were like, and maybe not financially, but like being able to help build out certain solutions and the way they work for use cases, right? And I think that you guys do that really, like Parkwell does that really well, where you get creative and say, hey, maybe it doesn't work this way, but how can it work? How can we make it work this way?
Yeah, we certainly try. And I think we do a pretty good job. I think we're all the good operators out there. I think we're all just sort of like cobbling together what we can with the partnerships that we have to try to provide specific solutions, because we all know in parking there's just so many different use cases and problems, and
there's a lot of potholes, I think, too, because I mean, people are just cobbling stuff together, throwing up a sign and saying, going to a show and saying, I can do that too, and a lot of them can't, and they don't have the experience to do it, and so you have to be cognizant and wary of the road, and maneuver your car around some of those potholes.
Yeah,
and I think you guys are pretty strategic. I mean, I know there's other people that are pretty strategic about how they implement stuff. So
yeah, there is because we're at a point now where what used to be okay to like try something, throw some noodles on the wall and see if it sticks, is no longer super viable, because now all of a sudden your team has to juggle, this many more platforms and logins and has to, so it's weird how at a certain scale you kind of by default can't just keep trying everything. You can maybe have like an R&D sort of component to your business, but like live in the field, it's tough. And so we're already running into that problem where it's like, we have to be more selective now about who we're piloting and who we're working with than we ever have, because we recognize that like you still have to implement this, and someone has to do it well. And all technology, in my opinion, is only as good as the sort of user and their mastery over it.
And I think you guys realize, most importantly, who you choose has to scale with you, because that's something to consider as well. Because a fast-growing company like yourself, if you've got a partner that can't scale with you, that's a problem.
Oh, that's a big problem.
That's a huge problem.
Yeah. And I think, I think that this is one of our biggest challenges in the industry, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, is technology companies not wanting to work together, right? And in retrospect, you're like, oh, it makes sense because technically they're a competitor. But to come together to help the bigger picture for your client, I think it's super important that companies try to at least work together in some form or fashion. And that's where I think Okra has tried to bridge the gap. But then you go back to, and you're familiar with Okra, okay. So, but then you go back to certain companies not wanting to integrate or play nice, because they're like, why am I going to do that? Well, and that's what I'm saying.
In this environment, they'll be lost.
But that's the 100%. It's like, why would you not want to scale? Like, if you want to go after these, not even larger companies, but these, the companies and, clients who are producing and growing at scale, like, you want to be if you want to be at the forefront of like the of an option, like, you need to be able to scale and play nice with other
I've been saying
companies.
This for a while on a lot of different shows, but now I've seen it at a level where, if you don't want to integrate, then you're gone. And I have a couple scenarios that it's the operator themselves, which I'm sure we can determine who that is, who doesn't want to integrate with anybody and thinks they're just going to exist without that. And guess what? You're gone, So it's not sustainable. It's not like to have an all-inclusive, here we come and everything's going to be done through us. We can do it all.
We don't have enough intellectual property to defend, like parking. The barriers to entry are too low. So if you're not going to integrate, your scale just shrinks dramatically, right?
Yeah.
But if you do, I understand the sort of hesitancy. There's risk in it, but like ultimately, there's only one path when you really look at it. You have to do it because our industry has too many lower barriers of entry, right? Whether it's tech or operators. It's just not technical enough to like create this sort of technology moat, right?
Right.
And it's market share, right?
And yeah. So and it's also while it's a big industry, it's not huge. It's not massive.
So back to the autonomous vehicle conversation.
God, okay.
I have to say it's a trigger word only because I think about 3 years ago, you got a bunch of consultants. Everybody came in. I think it's a buzzword. I get it. Like, we're doing highway runs with freight, and that works, right? You're doing deliveries. You're doing some Ubers in Phoenix.
Well, you gotta give Joel the insight to why you're like he hates the buzzword. He's so against it.
I'm not against it. I know it's going to impact the industry. I just think people came in and created this buzz, and it's like the legalities behind it. I mean, there's so many complexities. Can we just charge the vehicles? We haven't even figured that out yet.
Well, you have a good insight too on the regulatory side of it too. So
yeah.
I mean, here's my take on AV. So when I started my business in end of 2016, this was the buzzword. It was like
I remember
front and center. There was articles in every and
parking garages were going to be multimodal, and
right.
the autonomous vehicles are going to pull in, and everybody's going to get out, and we're going to be kumbaya.
There were people selling their companies in parking because of it.
Oh my gosh!
And I know more than one. And then I think what happened was, number one, the technology was slower. The regulate all that's
pushed back.
But then COVID hit, and I actually think what happened with COVID was everyone ditched their transit passes and bought like a third vehicle, so they could go and like camp in the mountains or something. And I mean a lot of people bought vehicles during that time, right? Do you remember the shortage and the dealers? Anyway, I think like public transit took a huge hit, and I don't think it's ever recovered. Certainly not here. RTD has never recovered.
Yeah, I don't think RTD was ever the ridership I love the infrastructure that they've built. I think it's important long term,
sure.
And I think it's great, but it's never got the buy-in. It will eventually. We will become a transit town when you connect Fort Collins to Colorado Springs with high-speed rail. You somehow figure out the I-70 corridor. And I think once you start putting all those pieces together, because I'm from back east,
right?
And
you've seen it.
Grew up in New York. I mean, there was a period you don't drive to New York. You take the train everywhere. You can go to Philly. You can go to Washington. You can go to Boston.
In Colorado, I think there's like 2+ cars per household.
Yeah,
but so I think the infrastructure is important. But if you look at some of those light rail trains, I mean, they're empty. They're not always going to be empty.
And they were bad to begin with. They got decimated during COVID, and they haven't gotten back up to the original levels. And I think. So I would say 2020, 2019, whatever, that the buzzword I 100% agree with. Up until I'd say a year ago, I put that on the shelf, and that whole conversation, I just put it on a shelf. It didn't bother me, or I didn't consider it much. But Waymo's been scaling at a pace that is interesting. So I think now here's my take. So are they going to be like an existential threat? No, I actually think what autonomous vehicles will do to our industry is sort of like, what aggregators did. When all of a sudden we had a technology solution to open up more modes of getting in parking, the operator became that much more critical to manage the different channels of revenue, right? I look ahead and I think, will it be disruptive, fairly disruptive? Yeah. But I also think the trends are converging to find an equilibrium. Like maybe if you're 16 years old in 2029, you don't get a driver's license. Like
Right.
Maybe 1 in 2 will get a license. Whereas, when I was a kid, the first thing I did is run and get my license.
So there was a trend away from, because I have a daughter and she certainly wasn't one of them, but there was a trend away from kids not getting their driver's license, and now that's trending back. So kids are rushing out getting their driver's license.
Do you think that it also depends though? It depends on where you're at, right? Like if you're in a metropolitan, geographically, if you're out in the mountains somewhere, this isn't necessarily I think it's like heavy metropolitan areas.
Well, let's just say that 20% of the would-be drivers stop owning a personal vehicle. I think that trends really well with a 20% less new construction of parking because cities are ditching their requirements, or because
they already are. Denver did, but it's driving parking rates up,
right,
and demand for parking up, because I think they did it too early, kind of like the bike lanes that are empty.
Yeah, that no one's riding.
So I guess to me, the question with autonomous vehicles is the same question for, do you think ditching parking minimums is going to be good for parking? And I think the answer is yes, because it adds complexity. So if you have,
I agree with you there.
If parking construction is going to sort of taper down while drivers taper down, then that's an equilibrium. And if autonomous vehicles further decrease demand for single occupied vehicles, well, I can tell you that logistics of the mobility world with autonomous vehicles is going to increase exponentially. So now you're not just catering to one user type or 2 or 3 user types. You have this 4th or 5th or 6th, type of mobility, and the services that are going to come out of that world, I think are going to be, pretty complex too. So long story short is, when I look at the future, I think they're going to be more I think Denver is going to start experiencing it. We're probably many years away from it actually starting to impact parking demand.
I think 10 to 15 years. And who knows what the technology is going to be like in 10, 15 years.
I'm a little bit more bullish. I think we're probably in the 5 to 10 year range.
Woo!
I'm gonna start keeping a board of
this question.
This. Yeah.
There was where was I going with this? Anyway.
How much you hate autonomous vehicles.
No, but back in the day, I don't hate autonomous vehicles.
No, you're just annoyed by the buzzword.
What I do, I'm annoyed by the buzzword that the consultants created 3 years ago.
100%.
And it was ridiculous. And now it even makes me more annoyed to hear that, people sold their businesses because of it. So I remember back in the day, I think it was 2007, 2008-ish, there was people said, the integrators like Mountain Parking and all the Tibas of the world are going to take over, and there's going to be no operators. You remember that buzz? And here we are, 15, 20 years later, and there's still operators. And that was a buzz going around. So yeah.
I don't worry about it as it's going to wipe out our industry. I actually think it's going to create new categories in our industry. If you can be a value add operator for fleet vehicles, whether they're autonomous or not, I think that's an opportunity. I think if you can secure the car, clean the car, and charge the car, I think you are. And the way I kind of think about that world is, let's just use the notorious example of WeWork. What they did, even though they raised money and were valued like a tech company, what they really did was create a business model. And even though they didn't last, the model's here to stay.
Other people are using that model.
And so I would say they pioneered that model, and they and it's I think there's a business model, an operating model that makes sense in the world of autonomous vehicles and just more integrated technologies that is actually a really big opportunity. and whether I have the energy or ambition to go after that, I'm not sure yet. Still trying to figure that out. But
more to come on
interestingly
that.
enough, there's a gal in our industry that wrote a book about, and I guess I knew the book, but I didn't really know what the book was about. I guess I'm going to read it now, but autonomous vehicles. So I made a comment on social media, and it kind of created some controversy.
Well,
so
John's always looking for some controversy.
I missed that. I have to go back and look.
yeah, so my phone started buzzing at like 4 a.m. So she's agreed to come on in October. So we're going to have a debate.
I guess I'm going to be the moderator, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Let's get some debates going.
I know. So it'll be a great show. So
This'll be
everybody
great.
watching,
I can't wait. But I do want to continue, because so obviously,
I mean, EV
too,
we still need to figure out charging.
We'll figure that out. That's
how are we
not
going to charge all the electric cars?
That's not a today thing.
Like
The thing that I want to get into
lines of cars. Literally.
Right.
So I'm at a Best Buy just over by my house. Just put in
which
all
should
these
have EVs.
They do.
EV chargers.
In the parking lot, they put up, I think it was probably the landowner that did it. Nice, lit, nice. But there's lines of cars, literally.
So EV will be a whole nother episode because we still need to address that situation. We haven't yet.
think about it.
That's my annoying buzzword.
Yeah.
Not,
EV.
Not that it's not happening. It's
You don't drive an EV then, right now.
I don't drive an EV. I'm a gas guzzler, but also
Me too.
But also,
all of us.
It's just like the land grab that's been underway for years. I've just seen so many companies put up a shingle, try to grow, and there's no real business model there other than subsidies. And so that's I'm just sort of turned off by all the different EV shops out there.
I mean, think about it. If you had an EV and you wanted to wake up with your dog and drive to Brotherly Love from Denver, I'm sure you could map it out. But
nowhere in
pretty
fucking Kansas,
stressful.
that's for sure. When I was driving, it took me all day to drive through Kansas. I would have been in trouble. I could barely find a gas station out in the middle of nowhere.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. People were talking, this is gonna. And then I could get into the whole other battery thing. It's probably, it's not really.
I think we'll say that for another time. But the other thing that I want to get into, because you mentioned this, Joel, and it is John's expertise is enforcement. Because if there's another challenge, we
don't like the word.
Well, if there's another challenge in the industry, it's regulation over compliance, enforcement. And so as an operator, I would love to talk more about that because we have the two experts in the room, right? We have an operator.
So the difference between compliance and enforcement is it's a mindset. So, and it's actually a legality thing. So enforcement, you're enforcing something that somebody didn't pay for parking, whereas compliance is more, it's private property. You didn't register.
So you wouldn't be enforcing
compliant.
For compliance?
We enforce for compliance. So you have to be registered on the property. So we don't issue notices for non-payment or anything like that. So you weren't registered, you're not compliant. Whether that be a validation.
The intention is to drive compliance versus create a punitive consequence.
Right, exactly. And that's auto start and all of that. Auto start is going to reduce the number of notices. And honestly, as a company, that's where we want to be. So...
And as an operator, what is your view on that?
You can't run parking the way a customer wants to do parking today without a compliance component, because what a customer wants is a seamless, easy, frictionless experience. And so, the solution in the past for creating compliance is to throw a big parking gate in front of it. And if that's where the customer wants to stay is with, let me just pay a kiosk in front of a gate, then I don't think the conversation's that important around compliance.
Right.
But that's just not where the customer wants to, right? But we all kind of know as customers ourselves, like we'd prefer, do we want to go to a counter and rent a car, or do we want to walk to the car?
Exactly.
I
want to walk to the car.
Oh, talk about a brutal experience. Let's figure that one out. The counters, but so if I guess the way I look at it is like you can't get around it. You can't create a frictionless environment when 21%, that's our average, parkers are non-compliant in a non-gated environment.
I think if the technology continues to evolve and get better and better, I think that will come down and the compliance will go up. I also think there's another municipal component here that needs to happen before the industry full on, goes gateless and everything else. And I think that's coming to a theater near you, hopefully. But
Well, that's good to hear. I'm a proponent of that. I kind of think it's like crypto. Like if you're trying to do crypto in an unregulated environment, you're like, you have no way to like build a sustainable business. And in parking with this world of enforcement, if there's no regulation, we don't know what the guardrails are. I mean, number one, I think there's a lot of bad actors and they give us all a bad name. But then the second part of it is let's just create a playing field to take the stigma away from, like, so if we're playing within the rules, I don't want to hear about like the news channels picking up bad PR. It's like that stuff goes away.
Exactly.
And I think for me,
it's kind of funny because I had a reporter reach out to one of the clients up in Evergreen. We've been in Evergreen for a couple of years. And the reporter said, oh, well, the new paid parking has, starting to send people away from Evergreen. And I was 24 years old, 26 years old. I was working a cashier booth in Evergreen. So, I mean, paid parking to Evergreen is not new.
The Bojo's lot?
Yeah. So the owner called and said, can you talk to this guy? We've been charging since the 1800s. I mean, he was joking, but and they're an old school family that owns that lot. And I called the reporter and just said, look, I was working there when I was 26. I'm 55. So
it's been around for a second.
It's paid parking is not. I said the difference is over the years there was attendance, then there were meter boxes because expenses obviously was a challenge for people, And so over the years, once the meter boxes became prevalent, the compliance rate was 30%. So yeah. Nobody was paying.
What's the psychology, do you think? I mean, why is it so emotional when somebody gets a parking ticket? Do you think it's because...
It's a good question.
That is a great question.
I think it, honestly, Joel, I think it gets to road rage and how people, when they're in their car, it's like people are... They're not
adrenaline
themselves.
Levels. Yeah. They're just stressed out. A lot of people are stressed out driving the city. I think that's one thing. I think it comes down to the psychology of like, parking is a means to the end. Like I don't value this parking space that I'm parking in.
Exactly.
I value the dinner I'm going to go have or the friend I'm going to go meet up with. Yeah.
Great point.
And so you kind of think of it, you devalue it, and so it's easy for you to just skip payment. It's easy for you to be like, I don't care. Yeah. Some passive owner.
You don't care until you care.
And then the ticket comes and it's kind of like, I think people have a hard time taking responsibility,
Absolutely.
And, but on the other hand, like I'm a fan of like, I don't want that experience to be so punitive. I'd like to see a world where, you have a higher rate of compliance, number one, so you don't need to issue as many notices. And then for the notices you do issue, I'd like for the dollar amount to be a more reasonable amount so that, there obviously has to be an economy that makes sense behind all this, the economics. But, if somebody's like, okay, crap, made a mistake, I'll pay. It's not that big of a deal. But again, you have to support that with the economics because it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of time.
That's right.
You have to run a tight ship. Like,
so municipal programs, which we often get compared to, are typically subsidized by the taxpayer. And most of the time, if you have a municipal notice that starts at 40, or you could take Denver at 30, there's an escalation. And I think Denver, after 90 days, is up to somewhere around 160.
Wow.
And you can't do that in the private sector. So most people don't understand. The private sector is subject to past litigation. And
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, it's a whole different ball game, and a lot of people want to compare municipal programs, but
it doesn't
we're
work.
not subsidized.
Well, it's the same.
You know,
you can't compare parking meters to private garages, right?
That's right.
They're not.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's a parking company that's managing the place. There's a rent that has to be paid. There's property taxes. There's maintenance. I mean, the list goes on.
I've said this before, though, is like the general public, like we need to, as an industry, we need to do a better job of educating the general public, right? Because a lot of the general public doesn't know that there's a difference between municipality and private. Right. They don't know that parking on the street and not paying is a big difference than parking in a private asset
I say this
and
all the
not
time.
paying.
I think our industry needs to do a better job with it in general. One, we've said this, collaborating, but as part of that collaboration, you know, right now there's a few cats at the table at these trade organizations, and they're the ones that are paying the most. And, you know, some of us just go there and booth and do whatever. And it seems like that's all they care about is the trade show. And there's a lot. BOMA's not like that. BOMA has
a big advocacy.
There's a big advocacy, and yeah, granted, I think there's some advocacy, but you know what? I think there's room for improvement. I'll say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think what you said earlier is probably very true. We're in the early stages of essentially re-educating the general public about how this parking games works, and in the end, it's in their best interest because it's going to give them a better experience. And like you said, after more and more adoption of this, the compliance is just going to increase, right?
Right.
Like for me, if I'm parking in Denver and I've gotten my third parking ticket in a private lot, like now I'm just going to go and be like, chances are pretty good I'm going to get a ticket if I park here without paying, so I'm going to pay, you know. And I think that's going to happen. So. And I also think that the regulation is going to happen. It sounds like you guys have a pretty strong feeling about that.
Yeah, we're working. There's an industry group, but we're also working. We're working with a bunch of different municipalities because ultimately we put a best practices document together because I think finding a way to work with the regulators, we want best practices, right? And so I think if we can all work together and come up with something, then not only does it legitimize it, but it helps it.
I agree.
And it's an improved process that not only regulators can have trust in, but the public, right?
It's unfortunate because with the municipal at that level, it's just going to take a lot of time. Right.
Well, we've been working on it for like a year and a half, so hopefully we'll see what happens. But I think once a couple of these go, I think you'll start to see that adopted. So yeah.
Well, I mean, kudos because when I'm guessing like 24 years ago, something like that, when you started PRS, you didn't necessarily. There's a question actually. I mean, did you see it growing to become one of the leading technology companies in the industry?
I didn't. I mean, wow. This is like Joe asking me a question.
I know.
That was Joe Lang did that.
Joe moderated one of our.
Yeah. He started turning the tables on me. I love it.
Well, we got to give your listeners some of your,
no. And one of the things that you said really struck me a while back was when you left Laz and you went to that other company and you were like, I'm going to start a couple lots because you have to cobble a revenue stream together. I mean, let's face it, when I finally left SP Plus, I mean, I couldn't just come over here. It had already been, established, but it couldn't afford me. So I had to put a couple other revenue streams together, and it was very stressful. But I never saw this happening. I think one of the things that I'm thankful for and blessed is I think the technology company that we ultimately partnered and merged together, I think saw the value with the history that PRS had and the lessons learned from a legality standpoint, whereas some of the others haven't put that piece together, and that's the missing piece for a lot of people.
Agreed.
How are you getting your lawsuits? Because I think we're going through a pioneer period, but how did you guys figure it out? Well, we figured it out over a 24-year period.
A lot of pain.
Not overnight.
A lot of pain. Those red signs that verbiage.
Oh,
has
that
been,
one?
This
one
one,
right
yeah.
there.
That sign
Well,
is so important.
John, don't take this the wrong way, but I didn't foresee that with PRS growing into what it is, and like you guys jumped on the vision early and figured that out, and that obviously that made all the difference, right?
Right.
But you had all the tools in place. So like, you know, what I think would have been the normal story is you had a good, you know, compliance enforcement business that was sort of more manual and boots on the ground, and, you know, saw the need for it, and you were a healthy little business. And then, you know, cameras come along, they get commoditized and affordable, and the middleware needed to make, you know, connect it to payment platforms and all that was emerging. And you guys would have just kept doing what you're doing, and somebody else would have come in and said, there's an automated enforcement piece that we need to figure out. But you guys didn't do that. You didn't just keep doing your thing. You said, this leverages what we're doing. And that's probably like, you know, I would say like 9 out of 10 companies miss that message. And so kudos, man. That was a big move.
I have to say, give credit to, shout out to Mark Bauman, because I remember some of the early on messages of my first interaction to him was, are you going to take the pave road, the Blockbuster road, or are you going to, make the left turn up that rocky hill with no pavement, no nothing? And look at Blockbuster, like they had a chance to. It's brutal, and that could have been us, right? So,
and it could be any of us. Like that's the other irony. Like, you made the right move, and I think it was like intuition and intelligence and all that, but also probably a little bit of luck,
right?
And I think we all have a little bit of that, and so like.
But you know what, Joel? It never ends. Mm-hmm. So, as a business owner, I'm still thinking about the next pivotal moment of what's going to make me obsolete.
Oh, 100%. Right?
There's going to be another fork in the road, and I know which path I'm going to take, but I have to have some kind of plan before I go down that road, right? I'm already starting to think about.
Well, if you don't have those moments, or if those don't come, if those fork in the roads don't come to you, then you're not innovating, right? Like you always have to have a reason to innovate to the next step.
So let's hear what your best and worst. First of all,
you beat me to it.
Yeah, this is my question though. I've got a question.
Yeah.
So how many cocktail parties have you been at over the years, and you say, "Oh, I'm in parking," and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they like quickly shuffle away from you because you become not that interesting? Have you experienced that?
Yes, and I find that it's mostly in like little niches, like in LA, the film industry is everything. You get a lot of that out there in like, so depending on where you are. But I would say it's probably like 1 in 3.
And now you probably are like, the confidence of being a business owner is as successful.
Yeah, actually,
as now you're like, fuck
now
it.
I bait them. Now I try it. Now I try to make what I do seem like as lame as possible.
That's right.
To just sort of see who they are.
I do the same thing. And my wife's like, "No, he's really not just in parking." I'm like, "Yeah." My wife's
always trying to qualify it. Yeah. She's like,
my wife is too.
He's not a valet or anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
You're like, well, I started there.
We do some of that.
No. That's funny. Yeah, I get it. The reality is like I've learned that like curious people, like if they actually ask that question and they mean it, then you're gonna have a great conversation. But if they're just trying to like make small talk and they're not interested, it doesn't matter if it's parking or if you're like.
I think it's actually a good detection of who you're dealing with and whether you actually want to get to know them, because I've had some great conversations with people that understand paid parking and they're like, wow, and they get it. Airports, a lot of money flowing through, like people that totally get it and have really good conversations. And then there's those people that just dismiss you.
There's some of that.
Like, fuck you. I don't want to talk to you anyways.
I get mostly what I get is I've always wanted to own a parking lot. Like, oh, that's amazing. I've always wanted to own a parking lot. I'm like, yeah, I don't really correct them. I'm not the owner,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you own? I get the same thing.
Well, I mean, I think it depends too on how people view parking, right? Like a lot of people can view it as real estate, and if they view it as real estate, they know that there's money in parking because, I mean, If you own a parking lot, you own real estate, and each space is worth a lot of money.
It's like the ultimate passive business that people think in their mind. They're like, oh, I just own a parking lot. It's just mailbox money.
It's just coming into people's like minds now, because people are like, holy shit, like I have to pay to park anywhere I go.
People think parking's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
They have no idea that it's a lot of money to operate a parking lot. Property taxes have gone up. So what's the next question?
Okay, so this is my favorite question to ask, because being in parking and being in the industry and all, like, for all these years, what is your most memorable story? Normally we say what's your best and your worst, but normally people, when it comes to mind, because when it comes to mind, like, people can't remember one or the other. I just want to know what's the first story that comes to mind, whether it was when you were a valet or being founder, CEO, or the in-between. Like, what is your most memorable moment in parking?
That is a really hard one, but I'll just cut maybe two come to mind. One's kind of fun, and it goes back early days. So parking cars in Malibu and Hollywood was kind of an eye-opener. It was a lot of fun. You deal with a lot of interesting personalities. And this was probably like a few months into the gig when I was parking cars at that restaurant in Malibu. And this Rolls Royce, this convertible rolls in, brand new Rolls Royce.
Sounds like my Tabor story.
You can hear it from like a mile down the road, because it's like gangster rap, full volume. And when it pulls in the lot, like, I greet him, and it's Suge Knight. You guys remember Suge Knight?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Death Row Records.
Yeah.
He had a little bit of a reputation.
My brother's in the rap industry, so I've heard of Suge Knight. Yeah.
So he's a pretty hard guy. Like, he gets out of the car, I'm like, oh boy. The rap music stays on full blast, and he gives me the keys and he walks away. And I've never parked a Rolls Royce, and I jump in this thing. They're bigger than you imagine, right?
Was there pot smoke too?
Probably, but I didn't recall that. Not part of the story, but but I sit in this car, and I've got to drive this convertible through the parking lot, past the busy greeting area, the entrance to the restaurant, and so there's no way I'm doing that with this rap music cranked all the way up. And it's the craziest thing ever. It's like a custom dash. There's no console. It's one big like chrome panel, and there's a single round dial in the middle of it. But I have no idea what it is. I'm trying to turn this music down so I can park the car, and the last thing I want to do is mess with the settings of Suge Knight's car. But I'm like, dude, I gotta park this thing. So I just start messing, and the single control on the entire front panel of the car is this round knob, and that's the audio, that's the volume. So it was like, thank God that was it. Turned it down, parked the car. But it was like, I thought it was a pretty classy move to like trick out your whole front panel with nothing but a big round dial for volume.
That's pretty cool.
Just the volume. I love that.
So
that's pretty. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Who could say that they've
Suge
Knight's car? Yeah.
I think Kendra Petty had one with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
All right. What's your second?
Oh gosh. Well, this is a fun one. And it's recent. But so we've been getting socked in the stomach for the last year and a half in LA, just trying to get some traction. And we finally got a big swing at a large portfolio. So if you guys know Kilroy Realty.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
They're a great group. They have an amazing portfolio up and down the West Coast. But it's like they run a tight ship. They have a lot of peculiar practices that are just rigorous. And we knew it was going to be an uphill battle, but we're going to go for it. We have nothing to lose, and also like, let's Hail Mary this and see if we can actually pull this off. And so, this one is a good example for how, my partner John just steps up, but he just killed himself over this proposal. I mean, we're talking about 3 weeks, probably putting in 90, 100 hours a week.
Wow.
And not only was he doing that, but like meanwhile, our partner out in LA, Andrew, was pulling out all the stops. I'm building a website for this. We're commissioning art for this. We're doing everything.
You're going all in.
We're going all in.
You're freaking 100% do or die.
we're going. We kind of like
Love it.
We just said this is it. If we don't get it, which we expected not to win it, then we'll at least be proud for giving everything we got.
Yeah.
And so we get the invitation to pitch, and we all go out to LA, the executive team, and sometimes there's just like the right energy, and everything comes together. Well, we sat in the room and we all just delivered our stuff with just a shit ton of passion, and what we didn't think was they kept it kind of close to the vest. We didn't know how that landed, but they booked a trip. The key kind of decision makers booked a trip to Denver to check out our operations. So we're like, well, that's a good sign.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. That is a good sign.
And so they came out and then they toured our operation, and then we went up to dinner afterwards. And so we bid only on their LA portfolio. At dinner, though, they said, hey, some people from San Diego sat in. So my question, this is like at the end of the night, my question is, would you consider also taking on our San Diego portfolio?
Oh, and you were happy there because you're a San Diego guy, right?
That's right. I'm from San Diego.
Baby.
So, and the properties down there were pretty amazing. So long story short, we then, we go through the process of just kind of, formalizing it and amazing process. Josh Garza over at Kilroy is like an absolute professional, great guy. But, getting that deal done and seeing the emotion that went into it. I mean, my partner, John, was welling up with like tears because of what he put into it. And then just how it's fundamentally changed the market in our business in California. I mean, it's just like everything. I'm emotional right now because of,
I can tell,
just because of all of the, just because of how it shifted things. Like, so now we went from this sort of like painful cost center in Southern California to, the sky's the limit over there. Like this really just put us on the map and is opening up tons of doors. And so it's like one of those moments you look back and, we all have those in our companies, one of those like watershed moments. But it was just beautiful to see the whole team rally around it. And it kind of taught us, like, for a little bit there, we were questioning, like, can we actually scale? Can we do what we've done here in Denver anywhere else? And this kind of like was that hurdle to say, hell yeah, we can do this.
That's such a great story.
That is amazing.
God, tearing up after working so hard and putting effort into something and having like that kind of emotion is so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah, really proud of the team and proud of how we're doing now. I mean, we're like 5 or 6 months into the project and we're killing it, I mean, of course there's challenges here and there, but like Andrew is knocking it out of the park and
you got a great
client's
team.
Happy. And so those are fun. That's what it's all about. Sometimes you have to like step up and do something you don't think you almost like don't deserve or don't feel like you're ready for it, but then you do it and you realize you can.
So Joel, as we wrap up, I always like to say, what are the 3 bullet points? You've obviously you're building a business. You come from being a valet. There's other people that listen to this, and the message I love to try to deliver, whether it's either outside of the industry from successful people, everybody's got their own perspective. What are like 3 bullet points that you think that you could end here with the show as, somebody who's listening going, God, I want to make that move. I want to do this.
Whether you're talking to someone who's starting out as valet or another CEO, founder of a company.
All right. So to the valet, I would say that the industry is an interesting one where there's a sweet spot with parking where it's big enough where you have tons of opportunity that you probably have no idea. There's so much opportunity. So don't take that for granted. But it's awesome because it's small enough where you're not lost in the crowd, that if you actually apply yourself and give a damn, you're going to move fast and you're going to move into opportunities that you just never thought were possible. So I would just say, like, don't discount this as a career option.
So number 1, don't discount parking as a career option. Number 2.
So to the more like executive world out there, I don't know, man. I think I look at this industry as a lot of fun, and I just want to say, let's keep it fun.
Keep it fun.
I love
That's
it.
a new one. I
I
love
love
that.
that one.
Keep it fun.
I like the one thing I'm frustrated by in the last few years is there's a different tone when you go to the shows. Mm-hmm. The tone is a little bit more like people wanting to kind of hate on parking as an industry or the operators, the legacies, this and that. It's like I don't like hearing that because what that suggests is that like we're a bunch of idiots and there's only a few people who get it.
Right.
And I just don't think that's true. That hasn't been my experience. I'm always impressed by the caliber of people at the top of all these different companies.
Right.
So keep it fun and keep it cool, man. Like nobody needs like a
No one needs the drama.
No one needs the
we
drama.
don't need arrogance. We don't need the drama.
All
I
right.
agree on that.
And what's the third and most important to you?
You have a choice. If you're good talent, you have a choice of where to work. So why work for a company who doesn't have bulletproof values and good leadership?
There you go.
It's amazing.
There you go. Joel, thank you very much. Congratulations on all the success.
Huge congratulations to you and your team.
And Dani, you finally got Joel on.
He's here.
Dani, John, thank you. That was fun.
Yeah,
Thank you
baby.
so
Appreciate
much.
that.
We appreciate you.
Take care.
Y'all.